Hi, and welcome to the very first episode of Hired to Lead. And I can imagine every leader you admire has a story they've never told publicly. The career pivots that terrified them, the moments that nearly broke them, and the decisions that defined everything that came in their career after. And this is where those stories get told. I'm Kim Wardle, Director of Design Search at Xeron, and I've been lucky enough to have spent most of my career connecting exceptional design leaders and ICs with their next chapter. And I started this podcast because I believe the design community deserves direct access to the people who are actually doing it at the highest level. On Hired to Lead, this is where we have honest conversations with world-class design and innovational leaders. And there's no better guest to kick things off than Bradley Derry, Head of Digital Product Design at General Motors. Hi, Bradley.
Hello.
Great to have you here. And I'm so glad we're finally doing it because we saw each other in New York last year, and I think it was around May time, and we've been talking about it ever since. So I have a lot of questions to ask you, so I apologize now. But I'd love to kick things off. Can you tell us a bit about what you're working on right now at General Motors and what's taken up most of your energy?
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you. It's great to sit down and finally record this. As you said, I know we've been talking about this for a while, so I really appreciate you having me.
No, really.
Let's see. Well, so I work at General Motors, which of course is one of the largest auto manufacturers in the world. I lead a number of our design teams, and I focus on the digital side. We're part of the same group that designs the vehicle's interior and exterior. We're a global organization. We have studios all over the world, but we're responsible for brands like Cadillac, Chevy, Buick, GMC, OnStar. There's a couple other ones. We work across many different channels, like app, web, some in-vehicle experiences, voice, all of them. I said I've been there for 3 years. It's been great. I get to build on a really strong design culture that's already established, with a lot of great history. We're working on some really cool things that are start to become public soon.
I love that. I mean, it's a big remit, especially at that scale. And I'm sure we're going to dive into it in much more detail. But before we do, and before we get into the leadership side of things, I'm always curious, before design was even a career path for you, where are you naturally drawn to or noticing?
Well, I think, I've always been drawn to being creative and making things for sure. But maybe it was like more noticing things that I saw myself, like being creative, being observant. But like I felt like I've always had this sensitivity to how something worked or like how it was put together, which kind of got me into design. I could tell if things were low effort or poorly made. I think too, like I was fortunate in grade school to have like a teacher who would advocate for me and like got me training outside the school system for like advanced like maybe art like classes. They're a little more advanced or more like adult like. And I think like that really helped me learn how to observe and think. Learning how to explore, develop ideas through all kinds of different materials like clay or paint or paper or, lots of sketching. So I think it was like, I've always known that I wanted to do something in my life where I got to create things. I still get all jazzed up about putting new things into the world. And then that led me into going into college where I started actually out in graphic design. I took a couple architecture classes and then I discovered industrial design. I was like, totally, this is me. I love it,
And it's brilliant that you've worked on so many different aspects of design, physical, digital, like you just said, like, the industrial side of things. And how was it that shaped the way you think about design today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was an industrial designer for many, many years. Early in my career, I worked for a small company. We partnered with a lot of contract furniture manufacturers. So like think Herman Miller, Knoll, Steelcase. Yeah. And like those companies have like iconic designs that are so embedded within our culture, like Eames, Richard Sapper, Harry Bertola, right? Like iconic designers, and it was great to be part of that, to contribute to that. Like my career has taken me on to a number of different industries. And I think like as a designer, you could design for any industry if you apply the same thinking and awareness. And I moved more into consumer products. And with that came smart devices and connected devices. So then not only was I designing the product form, but also the haptic touchpad or the companion app. And I think that like being an industrial designer, like, designing for tolerances or surface and materials, that really like established my standards. Like it's like set standards for me in design. But with digital allowed me to expand my scale a bit, like grow out and do more things at mass scale. But like to me, the design process between physical and digital is really the same. The methodologies are the same, besides some of the tools we use. But like the thing that is different between the two is the timelines to get something produced, right? So with physical design, it's very capital intensive. You need to invest in tooling and, those things take a long time. So industrial designers have to be a year out with trends, and often the parts that they create need to be very, very precise. So they need to be the first time. So you're paying attention to tolerances, at the parting lines, at the textures, right? And you can't hide those things. Like you're either going to get them right or you're not. But with digital, it's like completely opposite. Like the production side of things is so fast, it's so flexible. So very quickly you can launch something, you can iterate, you can learn in real time. And I think that's great. But with digital, sometimes there's this like tendency to rush things. And I mean, like users don't have less expectations because something's digital. They still want a quality product, a quality experience. So like, are things coherent? Are you building trust? Those things matter both in physical and digital design, and first impressions matter. So, I mean, maybe this is like a long answer to a question, but I think like for design, for me now, it's like bringing those standards that I learned in physical industrial design into the digital experience. It's like, did we design this intentionally? Is it well crafted? And like, are we doing that right off the bat? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's so relevant right now, isn't it? With the amount of products that are being shipped so quickly now with no real sense of is it actually working? Is it going to work for the user? So yeah, I definitely think that's so relevant. And Roddy, was there a specific moment or experience that fundamentally changed how you approach design?
I think like, as designers, we have this responsibility to protect a brand or the brand's perception.
Yeah.
So, there really is this like business side to the work that we do, and understanding that has helped me. So, I was fortunate. I got to work on a lot of like innovation, like activities throughout my career. And, I've always like brought the customer lens to those type of things. So, like pairing deep customer insight with compelling solutions, and then co-creating a really, really compelling business case with them. So, I don't like, here's a really good example. Like I used to work at Verizon, which is a large US telecom. And I worked on some new ventures while I was there, like things we could explore to help generate new revenue. And one of those projects turned out to be a company. It's got subscribers, it makes money today, it's got employees. But it was really great to use design to create a business. We think of design as just like things you can hold or things you interact with, but like design thinking and going through the process of understanding customers, there's like, you could apply that to actually create a business. And, it was great to see Verizon to invest along the way, and to make a really, really compelling solution for the market. And I think that was the very first time in my life where I got to experience that designers can actually create a business itself, and in really, really compelling ways that actually even maybe better because we understand the target audience so much, so like how you structure the business directly shapes the experience that a customer is going to have. So I think like now for me, I think much more holistically about products or services or subscriptions or, or the business decisions, and like how that all works together to create how what the end user is going to experience.
Yeah, exactly. And within your time, did you always see yourself as a leader or did that evolve over time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think like in hindsight, I know what's much more about myself now than I did when I was first starting. But like, if I look back, I was always kind of leading. You know, it's funny, but if you've ever done like a personality test, right? Like, yeah, yeah. So we actually at work, we just did a disc assessment. Have you heard of the disc?
I haven't heard of that one, but I have done one. And in fact, I did the same one with a space for a couple of years, and it was interesting to see how much it had changed. But explain the one that you were doing.
Yeah, yeah. This is great. We just did it. So I'm a DI. And when the results were, I was like, oh yeah, totally me. But like DIs are very comfortable with like expressing their vision. They can be enthusiastic, right? They're drawn to big initiatives that could get people excited, right? So I think like some of those things, they're just wired into my DNA. It's just who I am. So looking back, I think I've naturally found myself in those type of activities, which, I think they're like leading, like they help corral people, So
Yeah. And I definitely think you're either a natural leader or you are just someone that just you were just born to just stay in the craft. But it's great that you do both. And what's the biggest mistakes you've made as a leader that like have really stayed with you, where you've gone, well, I really shouldn't have done that, but actually it's shaped who you are today.
hmm yeah, I talk about this with the team and actually recently because we're doing some of the disc assessment stuff, but at times I assume we're good, the team. I expect you to like say something if we're not good. So like my baseline is always hey, let's go. Let's get that review set up. Let's get jump on the next big thing. And I have to remind myself that not everyone might not be good. They may not be driven by the results or the big impact like I am. So I may get jazzed up about that, but not everyone's inspired by those things. So I've had to remind myself to make little notes, to circle back around with the team to get a pulse before doing things. So I think it's gotten me in trouble when I'm not doing those. Where like I'm frustrated, like what's not sticking, and people are frustrated, like why are we doing this? So it's like doing the setup, doing the kickoff, connecting with everybody, like those things are I've had to learn that they've stuck with me. They're super important. And, I should say not just the design team, it's like your cross-functional partners, like are they also on board? I know you talk to leaders all the time, right?
Yeah.
Like design leadership could be hard. What are you hearing?
Oh, wow. In what aspect? I mean, there's so many different types of leaders, right? And I don't know, I think what I'm hearing right now is because there's so many different tools on the market, leaders are sometimes struggling to keep up with that and making sure they're using the best ones for their team and trying not to confuse things too much. Um, I don't know. It's a really difficult world right now in leadership because you have to be back on the tools. It's not just about, leading from the front and doing the hiring and the strategy. You genuinely have to be leading by example. So I'm seeing, a lot of leaders now having to start upskilling again. Are you seeing the same for you as well? Is that a big challenge for you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I'm in more of the tools today than I've been in a while, and I think that there's a trend of flatter orgs, uh, smaller teams with more senior folks just getting in there and tackling it. So that we'll see how long that sustains, but yeah, I totally see that. Yeah.
Yeah. And now we're talking about those tools like Claude, Cursor, AI assisted building, changing how quickly things are made. I mean, we talked about that earlier. How do you think the role of craft and taste is evolving and like what really matters right now?
Um, I think it totally matters. Um, I think like with crafted taste, it can mean a number of different things, right? So like for me, it's like materials that age well, or like, are we being restrained versus just doing decoration? Or like, I prefer more of a quiet confidence versus, design that's too loud or trendy. So like in digital is like alignment, spacing, structure. Those things are important. Is the right texture, is the right typeface? Uh, like, are we designing things that show that we put care into it? That attention to detail. I think that's what matters.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And pushing on a bit then, and this comes up a lot, and so I'm keen to see what you think here. Do you think we'll actually need fewer designers now with all of these tools, or will it just raise the bar and expose who's really exceptional?
Um, I don't know. I think part of the work will become automated for sure. Like AI is here. But like producing assets in the design team has always just been part of the small part of the work that a design team actually does. I think like the real value is understanding people, like reframing a problem, coming up with unique solutions, recognizing like a transformational idea. That's why I come to work, right? And I hope other designers feel the same. So I suspect that the bar will rise for designers, and with that, maybe the judgment in some, like, can they identify quality versus average work? I think that's what's going to become more visible. So like, I think like, listen, like designers are going to have to use these tools. Like I'm using them where everyone's kind of using them. And they're going to have to look at what AI produces, whether they are creating them or a cross-functional partner is creating to muck things up. Right. And they'll have to be able to pull out the nuggets of good ideas in them. I don't know if there's going to be less designers that need to do that, but like the ability to integrate this into our process and think about this,
Yeah.
In a much more meaningful way. Yeah.
More like exposing the gap almost.
Yeah.
And looking ahead, what kind of problems or environments are you most excited about and to spend time on?
Well, I'm always going to be interested in the physical and digital worlds because I have built those backgrounds. But and I think like, it's kind of a shame, but like it's very common in companies to treat those two departments separately in a way, and when they really really should be together. So you have, on one hand, you have like really really strong teams creating form or proportion, and then you have equally strong digital designers creating interfaces or apps, and like each group is being excellent, like, in its own domain, but it's like that space between those two things where like things can slip, right? So it's that coherence I'm always interested in. So, you don't want to disjointed experience. And I think, no company wants that. So hopefully I'm solving more of that in the future.
I'm sure you are. Now we're going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to fire some quick questions at you, and it's answer with the first thing that comes into your mind. No thinking. First answer wins. You ready?
Yep.
Leader or builder?
Both. I think it should be both. I think, yeah. But let me add one. An editor. I feel like sometimes I'm editing work.
Okay. Favorite boss and why?
Bud Upson, RIP. Early in my career, he really believed in me, challenged me, but like challenged me in good ways.
Nice shout out. And the belief you've outgrown?
I think like, I want to say something like, it's not about like how much effort you're putting in to get the results. I guess what I'm trying to say is like really think about, it's helping me to like really think about my goals and being clear on that. So like either whether it's work or personal or self development, like whatever it is, like just being very, very clear with myself and focus my energy. That's where it's at.
A job title that will die, which I think is really relevant right now.
Oh, wow. Yeah. People are probably freaking out with AI and stuff. I don't know. I don't know if job titles will change per se, but I think the boundaries between roles are going to blur.
100%.
Yeah.
Success feels like?
Oh, working with some really cool people who love what they do, solving some really cool problems, making really cool stuff.
I love how you didn't make that about yourself and made it about everyone else. That's so kind. And Bradley, I would love to carry on this conversation all day, but sadly we've run out of time now. So I just want to thank you so much for being my first guest.
Yeah.
And for just being so honest and open. And now, if people want to follow your journey or hear about open opportunities at GM, which I know you guys are hiring like hotcakes right now, what's the best way to keep in touch with you?
I'd say you should go to the GM corporate site. There's lots of openings. Yeah, take a look at. Please reach out to me on LinkedIn. I will do my best to get back to everybody. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be a part 2 to this conversation, but until then, thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in.